Hey guys, it's Agent Luke here with the update video for version 0.2.10. The big thing I'll cover today is tags, which should help you group the functionality of your blocks and keep your terminal window nice and clean. Let's get started. Okay, so here we are at life support. And I'm going to demonstrate tags using the two airlock doors. I figure this is a really simple use case to get started. So let's imagine that in an emergency scenario, we want to close all airlock doors, right? And of course, if we go into our terminal, we're going to see very quickly that targeting groups across our grids just becomes unmanageable, especially with a lot of blocks exposed. Our groups don't really stack up, and especially when you're talking about a grid that's connecting with a bunch of other grids. It just gets really busy really quickly. So let's look at how tags can make this problem a little easier for us. Now I could assign these to a group, but we're going to use tags instead. So let's go into the custom data of this first door. And we'll notice that we don't have anything under general yet. We can actually add a tags configuration item now. And we're just going to set this to airlock to prove our example. And that is to say that our door is part of the tag airlock. So we're actually going to copy this whole section to keep it easy for ourselves. Okay, and then we're going to go over to the other door. And we're also going to tag this guy with airlock. And that is to say both of these doors are part of the airlock tag. We'll do a reboot of mother so that she has the freshest custom data. And then now what we're going to do is we're going to target both of these blocks using the tag that we just assigned. So we'll find our mother on the grid, which is this guy. And for the argument, it's quite simple. We're targeting doors still, right? So we're going to use the door open command, and we're just going to use a pound sign or a hashtag, type in the tag name, and when we run it, we're going to notice it runs against both doors at the same time. And that's really the basics of tags. And so the cool thing here is that we don't have to worry about any groupings in the side. And for instances like these doors, once I set them, I really don't need to worry about them anymore. There's no reason for them to have such an active state in my terminal. I really do treat this as blocks that I'm interacting with on a more common basis. So these doors, once I've set them to be functional airlocks, the idea is that I don't really come back to them unless I have to do something specific. An airlock, or rather the tags really helps with that because we'll be able to select the block type based on the command that we're using, but we can group multiple blocks using the same tag. Let's take it a step further and look at the light. So we've got our light here, that's inset light 31, so let's find him real quick. There he is. So we'll go into his custom data, and we're going to also paste in that airlocks tag. Or airlock rather. Okay, and we've essentially said that this light is also an airlock light, right? So it'll be part of that tag, and we'll be able to target it in the same way, right? So if we go light, color, we're going to target our airlock tagged lights. So it could be multiple lights. In this case, we just have the one, and we're going to set it to red. Boom, and we see that happen. Right, so we've put multiple blocks together in the same tag, and this allows us to kind of group by functionality. I would say the groups are really good when we're talking about maybe zones, but when we're thinking about broader functionality across our blocks, we can use tags to couple that, and we don't have to bung up our terminal view on the left-hand side. The problem really comes to light when we start to see just how many groups we actually do create for pretty common low use blocks. And I use lights as an example here because as my grid has grown over time, we see that we have just a plethora of light groups. And the reality is, if I have any other grids with a group called lights on them, when they connect together with the connector, traditionally those groups merge, which means you're going to be targeting blocks you don't intend to when you're dealing with a carrier or a base like I've got here. And so ideally, we have a situation that cleans this view up, but keeps our functionality across our blocks. And so what we're going to do now is look at our Echo landing pad, which is right here. And I'm going to show you how tags have helped rewire those lights, so we actually don't need this group anymore. Let's take a look at how I've done that. So if we go into our connector, remember that our connector is what decides the color of the light, right? So when we connect, the lights are red. As we see our grid here, it is parked. We have red lights. When it disconnects, they'll go green. And if we look inside that connector now, we've noticed that our command has changed from our previous video, right? So our light color is now being set by a tag group, right? Or landing pad echo. And of course, every light implements this tag now. And so when we run these commands, what we're actually doing is finding all of the lights with our or landing pad echo tag, and we're setting them to red. And similarly on the unlock, we set them to green, and we change their blinking to medium. Right? And so this becomes really replicatable, because now all I have to do is tag each of the blocks that are part of other landing systems, and I can actually target them in the exact same way. Right? So let's use that as an example for this pad. So if you'll notice, I currently only have this connector set up. The other connector is not set up, so we're going to use that as our guinea pig for this one. So we're going to keep this guy hovering for a second so he's not interfering. And then let's go into here, and we're going to see that we are currently targeting that light group. We don't want to do that anymore. In fact, we want to target the tag, and we're going to call it, actually, let's look at what we called it in the last one so we get this consistent. Or landing pad echo. Okay, so we're going to copy that, and we're going to make this one delta. Really simple swap. Custom data, and we're going to make that delta. And now we are going to copy this into each of our targets for that light group. So we should have 4 in this sense. We'll keep the sensor because it's a specific block we want to target. We could hypothetically target it, but remember that we're using the block on, block off, and that broadly applies to every block, which means if we use that for our tag group, it's going to shut all of the tag groups blocks off and not just the one that we want to target. So we'll keep its name for this one. But that's going to be all we're going to need for that. And now, of course, we're going to recompile mother here, and we're going to realize very quickly that we broke everything. And that's as expected. Okay. So now we should see nothing really happen with those lights when we park. Yep, nothing happens. Okay, perfect. So we are where we expect to be. Now let's update our lights. So this is inset light 72, 71, 73, and I believe these follow the same convention. 4, 5, 7. Okay, so we'll keep into account that last guy. So we'll go up here. We will hook into our main base, and we're going to find our lights. So we know that they're inset lights. So we're just going to go for inset light 71. There he is. So in our custom data, we're going to define our tags for landing pad delta like we saw before. All right, we're just going to go through each of these lights. There he is there. We're just going to keep following this rhythm. And we're going to do all 6 lights in this way. So we get our third one on this side. Notice that the tags was spelled incorrectly. I was dealing with that earlier. Okay, we got one over here. You can barely see it, but I promise you that that's the one that's selected. We got 75, which is right at the end. And finally, we know that the last one is 77, this guy there. And done. So that's all the configuration we need for our lights. Finally, let's recompile mother and see how this took effect. So we'll find our mother. We'll do a quick recompile. I am working on this to make this more, let the blocks kind of auto-update on a cycle, so you're essentially never recompiling unless you hit an error. That'll be in a future update, not too far out now. Okay, so we're going to come down and we're going to park, and we should see the lights change color. And of course they did. And unparking, we see the lights go back to green. So everything's working again as we expected. Now, the nice and really convenient part of mother in this scenario is, well, I have 2 connectors on this landing pad, right? And of course we just set the first one. So now let's go into the custom data. We're going to copy this whole thing for that first connector. And we're going to come over here. And we're going to copy it into this guy's custom data. And that is essentially us wiring up both connectors for the same landing pad. Okay, so now we'll do a mother recompile one more time so that we have the most recent data in our configuration. And then we're going to try and land the other way. And we should expect that this works exactly the same way. And all we had to do is copy and paste. And like you saw in the previous video about building this system, it's really that simple to duplicate an airlock when you create a new one, or rather a docking station when you create a new one. You just copy and paste some of the code, and it should work. So there we are. We're lined up. We're going to hit park, and we'll see our lights turn to red. Unpark, and we're back to green. And that's really it for tags. There's a lot of other ways you could use it, but this is certainly the starting point, and I'm looking for really exciting ways to use tags across my ship and my grids, and I've got a few ideas, so I'll keep you guys posted as I go. Thanks, guys. That's all for version 0.2.10. I am working on a version 0.3 that's going to come with some changes. I'll have more news about that shortly. And Mother Core is coming along very nicely, and hope to have that released for open source to help some people develop their own scripts, just like Mother OS, in the coming weeks. So stay tuned.